Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark. And in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Christopher Ray Patton.
We're back this week, kids, with part 2, or should we say side 2, side B, the second part, the second side to Exile on Main Street, the classic Rolling Stones album from the band of the same name. Funny how that worked out, but this should be a good one, kids. We're looking forward to doing this. We hope you enjoyed the first episode where we covered half of the total 18 tracks. That's right, kids. Tracks 1 through 9 we hit on the first part of this. Today we will hit tracks 10 through 18. So again, hope you're looking forward to it. And before we go any farther, let's do this. Exile on Main Street is the 10th British and 12th American studio album by the Rolling Stones, released on May 12, 1972 through Rolling Stones Records. A sprawling double LP blending rock, blues, soul, country, and gospel, it captures the band at their most unfiltered and experimental. Recorded primarily in the humid basement of Keith Richards' rented villa in southern France during their tax exile, the album's raw sound reflects both the chaos of its creation and the deep roots of American music that inspired it. Despite mixed reviews upon release, Exile on Main Street has since been hailed as one of the greatest albums in rock history. And that is your lowdown on Exile on Main Street. So, Chris, pretty sure we established with part 1 of this sucker that, yes, indeed, this is a classic album. And that, yes, the critics got it wrong, as they are wont to do as often as they can. So, Chris, as we tackle tracks 10 through 18, I mean, I assume you've listened back to part of it, at least, going into this. Do you still think that tracks 1 through 9 are the strongest part of the album? Are you going to stick to that?
I'm going to stick to it. I think I still like the first LP the best of the two. But this, I don't know, this side ties the album together. I think that you get like, it almost feels like a hangover, and then a hangover, a confession, and then redemption.
Nice.
There's a lot more gospel tracks on this. That's what I had written in my notes. But yeah, I mean, without this, the album I don't think is as great as it is. I think you need both of them. And the track placement's really well done, because a lot of these tracks wouldn't fit on the first side, and a lot of the first LP in the same, vice versa. They did a great job of getting that done.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way you described that. That's pretty cool. That works for me. I mean, do you think side 2 is more commercial, less commercial, about the same in terms of the mix of kinds of songs we have here?
Oh, it's less, I think. As far as being commercial, that there weren't any singles released on this. So if we're going off that, right, then we have to say that the first, our first LP here was the commercial side. It's also the more upbeat side. There's more, more there, I guess, like as far as like your fast-paced, fun Stone songs. Though this album does kick off with one, this LP does kick off with one. But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough thing to say, because the entire album was considered a commercial flop to some extent, right? It got its notoriety years later, as we were kind of alluding to there.
That's true. But, oddly enough, there are 2 singles released. I think we may have covered this last week. Tumbling Dice was the first single. But the second single, released 2 months after Tumbling Dice in 1972, was the first song we're going to talk about, which is Happy. It was actually the second track released off this album. So at, let's see, 3 minutes, 4 seconds, Chris, I think this is as mainstream as it gets. I think this is as commercial as it gets. I'm with you. I don't think the whole side is like that, of course, but Happy is a very feel good, maybe poppy kind of song. But I actually really love this tune, man. I can't find a whole lot of fault with this. What do you think about this one?
I enjoy this tune a lot as well. This is one of the unique ones where Keith Richards actually does lead vocals, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, and also plays the bass. So it's a lot of Keith Richards. I think Mick Jagger is only listed as being a backup vocalist and playing maracas. And on drums, Jimmy Miller, who was the producer of the album, is actually who's playing the drums because Charlie Watts wasn't around. So yeah, it's one of those weird ones where they're recording in this basement and Keith shows up 2-3 in the morning. They knock the track out. Like it all came to him kind of spontaneous. It's considered a very, spontaneous song from everything you'll read throughout history, but yeah, it kind of all came to him at one time. And it's pretty much exactly what you get, what was recorded, minus Jagger coming in and doing some overdub backing vocals and playing maracas, which is just weird, but it fits, right?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that Keith Richards had a solo album in 92, Main Offender, which I have always been insanely crazy about because it's got Wicked As It Seems on it. And Wicked As It Seems is a very Keith track. It's a very Stone sounding track because Keith's on lead and he's singing and everything. But I've always thought of all the tunes that I've ever heard this guy play, this is a very cinematic song. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but Wicked As It Seems is a very cinematic song. So I love that he is on the lead vocal. We didn't see that a lot here. We talked a lot about the Beatles in the first episode, thanks to me, of course. But like with John and Paul and the other two guys, Ringo and George. But Chris, we didn't see a lot of vocal trading back and forth because, Mick's your guy. He's the guy. You might know this better than I do. Did this happen, just randomly with him and Keith, or how'd that work out?
Not very often. Because Mick is the guy, he's the lead singer, right? Like that'd be like if Joe Perry was doing vocals for Aerosmith or something, it's like kind of a weird dynamic, even though they've written, they both get credit on a lot of songs they've written. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of songs that they wrote together on this album. We'll talk about one a little later. But yeah, I don't know. I think that gives this song a very unique feel on the album too, because you have a completely like Keith plays bass and you have a completely different drummer and Bobby Keys is on saxophone. It's just different than anything else that's on the album. Mm-hmm. That's probably what gives it the more commercial feel, maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah, it does have a very different feel. So he said of this song, Keith Richards said, talked about how it worked. As you said, Miller's on the drums. They got baritone sax in there. The original track with the baritone sax guitar and Jimmy Miller on drums. And they said they had nothing to do, and he just picked up the guitar and played this riff. And it's the record. And they just decided, all right, let's just do this. He said, we did it in an afternoon in about 4 hours, cut and done. At noon, it had never existed. At 4 o'clock, it was on tape. That is crazy.
Yeah. Sometimes songs just come to you like that, especially when you're in this environment that they're in where it's your only thing to do.
Sure.
But yeah, this is the only track like that on the entire album though. Right.
Yeah. That's fair.
As far as like one person taking over the entire session, there's really only one track where everyone is credited as a writer, like everyone that's key components of the band, which is kind of weird, but it worked on this album.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think it worked. It works on this album. And again, I like that Keith's on here and he's doing his own thing. And I love that it just kind of came from out of nowhere. I'm here for that. I love songs like that, man. And of course, it doesn't always work out depending on who the band is. But when it does work out, happy accident sort of thing, you hear that stuff through the years, Chris, with other groups, other singers about, yeah, I hated this song, or we weren't even going to include this song because we didn't have any faith in it. And turns out it's either their biggest single of all time or it's close to it. It's so crazy how that works out, man.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Was it the Cars that we were talking about where that was kind of
yes.
Yeah. It was the Cars where
that's right.
Like to the point where I was like, I didn't remember who did vocals on it. And it's like one of their biggest hits. That happens sometimes. And it's, it's neat when it does happen.
It
Makes you wonder why there's not more of that. But then once again, we talked about this on the first episode, and the first side, as you were saying, where Graham Parsons is a big influence of Keith during this time period. If he was more leaning towards that style of music, the vocals wouldn't really sound like the Stones. So maybe that played into it a little bit of why he wasn't doing more of the Americana country alt. We'll call it country alt for lack of a better term. That's what it would be considered now, even though I would consider Graham Parsons just country. Sure. But yeah, some of that stuff that Keith Richards was really into that bled in, like he still got it across on the Stones albums, right? You would get Mick doing some kind of like different voice, or what I called almost a sarcastic take on what a Southerner would sound like singing the song to some extent, which makes it different, changes it. So I mean, maybe some of that played into it of why we didn't get more just pure Keith on vocals. Who knows?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it's again, it's a different sound, but Keith more than did his part in this band, so he gets a pass for not taking lead all that much.
He got a single.
He did get a single.
One of the two singles, so he can always go back to Mick and be like, "What were you doing during this time?"
Yeah, yeah. Where you been? Where you been, pal? Yeah. Let's see, kids. At track number 11, at 2 minutes 38 seconds, it's one of the weirdest styles you've ever heard. This is "Turd on the Run," and let's see. We've got Mick and Keith are listed on this. And we've got Jagger is here, of course, on vocals, harmonica. Keith's here. Taylor's here. Wyman's here. Watts is here. It's a fast-paced, harmonica-heavy rocker, blending blues grit with rockabilly energy. Chris, I like this, although it doesn't go anywhere. And I you know what I mean by that? It just kind of sits still. There's no real, take me to the bridge. Where's that confounded bridge, right? It's just kind of sitting there. What do you think about this one?
So this one was recorded with it's recorded live. So there's very like minimal overdubs. They wanted it to have like a live blues feel to it. So I think that's kind of where you're getting at. It almost sounds like a jam more than a song.
Yes.
I like the harmonica on this a lot. That's Mick playing harmonica. And then you got Keith doing some backup vocals. Mick Taylor's playing rhythm with Keith. And then we get the return of Bill Wyman and Charlie Watts here with bass and drums. It's fine. It sounds, it's something that's kind of very specific to this album. And, I don't mean that in a bad way. This is the kind of this, like, Happy is kind of like a bridge between these two sides. And from the rest of that, it's a very different album from the first side.
Yeah, we kind of get that right off the bat, don't we? Like they don't hide it too much. So yeah, they're definitely letting you know that this is something different. I mean, I like the idea of a jam. But it does kind of serve as a reminder, Chris, that this album is not exactly, and maybe that's why they were they meaning critics. Maybe that's why critics were judging it so harshly. Maybe they're looking at this saying, well, what are we going to put on the radio? What's going to be on the radio? Because it was such a big deal, the radio then, of course. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why people, thumb their nose at it the way they did back then. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the answer to that is one of the other 12 Stones albums that came out before it is what you could do as far as what are you going to put on the radio. But yeah, I mean, but it's also what makes this album stand out in their huge discography, right? Like songs like this. This is not one of my favorite songs, but it is. I don't know if you like blues jams. That's what it is. It's a blues jam. If you've ever been in a band and there's a guy that breaks out a harmonica, get a bunch of people dicking around, for lack of a better term,
right?
You could come up with something like this. I have came up with songs like this. Never to the extent of a Stones song, but it is. It has that energy, man. I think that's kind of cool. Like if you're a musician, these kind of songs are always fun when they're on an album.
Oh yeah. And if nothing else, you can just get a glimpse of the band kind of cutting loose and just being comfortable with each other and doing their thing. Hey, let me ask you this, because again, I will defer to you as being the Stones expert on this show, because again, I know.
I hate that though, because like it's being a Stones expert. That's
Well, you know
a
what
lot, brother.
Well, how about this? How about compared to me? Because I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know, if that makes any sense. Like, I can tell you when the Beatles' problems started and what eventually, contributed to the demise of the band. Maybe you don't know. Did the Stones have periods of time where like, well, I just hate your guts. I can't be in the same room with you, because it feels like they've always been going, man.
Well, they've always been going, but they did do solo albums in between
Sure.
there, which, was that them having turmoil? Now, the one thing the Stones did a lot different is the kind of the contract structure and the way that they worked out how this band works, and the band being a business more than a band in a lot of sense, which the Beatles didn't do. You would almost look at this band more like Kiss, right? As far as that stuff goes, as far as the way they approach business, like this is a job. Which, Stones fans are going to absolutely hate that analogy, but like Mick is famous, like for writing in things like healthcare, right, into their contracts and stuff. So I don't know that they ever ran into the same problems as the Beatles. And some of that might be that Mick Taylor and Keith, they get songs on the album, but it's like Mick is the band, right? Like he's the face of the band, and they're more okay with that. Whereas the Beatles, you got these three creative forces, all great songwriters. It's kind of a whole different thing.
Yeah. And, John and Paul know each other since they're 15, 16, I think. And listen, I think you had a great analogy. I think it's a great way to describe it. And, honestly, I kind of see value in that, man. Like, maybe not businessmen to the point of we can't talk about each other's kids and, be like brothers and hang out. But also at the end of the day, you shouldn't screw with my money. I'm not going to screw with yours. You know what I mean? I kind of see the appeal of that, man.
They're also just very different bands, right? And very different people.
Sure.
As far as their vibe, right?
Yeah.
So, I could see getting along with Keith and Mick way more than I could see getting along with John and Paul during this time period.
Yeah.
If I was dropped in the same room, this is more like an everyman's band where the Beatles sometimes come off a little push.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like John would be as much of a deep guy as John, which John would argue he was never deep. He'd be the first one to tell you that. But, as much as he came off like that, I kind of feel like he would be unapproachable most days. Like, I don't know if I could ask for an autograph from John. I think I might be a little intimidated because he just, not very approachable. He's kind of like the CM Punk of that band, where it's like, don't cross him on the wrong day, But
they're just a very weird. It's a very weird comparison, even though they get compared to each other because of the time periods.
Sure,
but they're kind of nothing alike as far as a band and what the bands went through. At least not, from what I have seen over the years with these bands.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Can't argue that. Let's see. Kids number 12 is Ventilator Blues at 3 minutes, 24 seconds. And, contrary to popular belief, this is not a Robert Johnson track, although you kind of think it would, because it just sounds like, just take a word and throw it in front of the word blues, and you think maybe Johnson wrote it back in the day. But this is only one of two songs, kids, that Mick Taylor actually has credit on. And the other one is Crisscross, which is not officially released until the 2020 deluxe edition of the album, Goat's Head Soup. But again, this one at 3 minutes, 24 seconds. I like this one a lot. I love the bass on it. There's just not much about this song I don't like, man. Is this a favorite of yours? Where do you put this one?
It really is a favorite of mine, and because of the drums. The drums are like slightly offbeat in a great way, and then Mick is doing this amazing. The reason it gets compared to Robert Johnson is because of the slide guitar part that Mick plays, which has got a lot of similarities to a lot of blues players, not just Robert Johnson, but
sure.
Definitely taking roots there. But yeah, man, the groove's like very heavy, swampy. I'm trying not to speak in guitar player terms, but it's all built around that Mick Taylor's like slide riff. Like the entire song is built around that. And this is another one that feels like, I'm sure that this one wasn't just recorded live because they brought piano. They have piano on it, and Bobby Keys comes back in with a saxophone. And this one seems like there was more attention to detail than, let's say, Turd on the Run, but it's in the same vein, right? And the name of it's great because it's just referring to how hot it was in the basement they're recording to, and there not being any kind of airflow down there. Ventilator Blues. But yeah, it's a cool track. It's a really enjoyable one. It's one that I go back to more often than some of the other things on this album.
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. It's been compared to having like a Chess Studios sound, that approach to this in terms of the arrangement, which I can absolutely hear.
Boink Studios YouTube is the home of Tom Clark's 6M podcast. Tom Clark's main event, Bear Mode, a podcast review of The Bear, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Subscribe to the channel for archives that date back to 2014, with new content being uploaded every week. And check out boinkstudios.com for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Bookmark the site today.
Jagger double tracks the lead vocal studio technique that wasn't used all that much. And man, if I think about it, I don't know if off the top of my head I can think of another situation in which Jagger did this with his voice, man.
Well, I know that they would double vocals, but I don't know that he does it on this album. So, and I don't know what time period that really started. Tom Petty is like known for like triplicating doubled vocals and stuff. And he gives him like, even just singing the same part in the same exact way, slightly augmented. So not doing like octaves or anything, but like just layering your vocals. That became like a really big thing. Not much longer after this, where a lot of people were doing it, but that's kind of cool. That I think this is the only song that they do that on the album. I had to go back through my notes on the last one.
Interesting. Yeah. It's recording for this one began in late 71. Keith said that on Ventilator Blues, they got some weird sound of something that had gone wrong, some valve or tube that had gone. If something was wrong, you just forgot about it. You leave it alone and come back tomorrow and hope it fixes itself, or give it a good kick. Recording concluded in the early months of 72 at LA's Sunset Sound Studios. Yeah, I'm a fan of this one, man. I really like it. I think it fits amidst the hodgepodge of what you could argue could be radio tracks versus gospel versus some stuff that is just straight blues. So it fits because of that.
Gotta love the old tube amplifiers they absolutely love when they get super hot. They do all sorts of fun things. It's incredible. No, but I love that they're just like, this is off. And then Mick is like, it sounds off. It sounds cool when you play slide on it. And they're like, yeah, send it. Let's do a song.
Right.
That's getting around. And I mean, famously the Kinks did that, right, with a blown out speaker, and just bands not going out and buying a new amp or getting it fixed to fix the song, like figuring out your way around it. And to be fair, they're putting a lot of money into this album. Living in this villa, and it's just part of the unique story of this album in general, with everything that was going on and the people that were around and some equipment getting stolen. So this might not even be the original amplifiers that they were working with partway through this album, like we talked about on the side one, with the at least has been stated was the we owed drug dealers money and they came and stole our equipment. Whether or not there's truth on that or not, is from the band, that is what was reported. So,
that's true.
But yeah, it's one of those cool things. Whenever you hear a story like that, it's like it makes you complain less about your gear. As someone who has spent a lot of time over the years getting different tube amps with very particular EL tubes, and like being very specific about how you want things to sound, replacing speakers and all that stuff. And then knowing that there can be the most temperamental damn thing in the entire world because you're using tube technology that was created in the early, 1900s. Uh, There's a reason why solid state was eventually invented, but the world's not there yet, man. You can't replicate tube sounds. People still use tube amplifiers to this day because of that, in their weird idiosyncrasies.
Plus,
so it's kind of cool to hear that.
And plus, even though you're the Rolling Stones, and you're by 72, I won't say you're legends, but you're firmly established as a top act around the world, I would say. But you're still competing. So when you find a sound that no one else has done, even if it is accidental, even if it is just an amp, even if it is just a whatever, insert your random object here, you stick with it because the guy next to you, his album won't have that sound. You know what I mean? So there's some happy accidents there too, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the other thing is like, yeah, just making the decision of like, well, let's try to do something with it, and then coming out with this and it being this real cool swampy sound. They may not have gotten that if they started this album at 6 a.m. before it got really, really hot.
Sure.
Or started this song. It's kind of one of those weird things, especially with tube amps, because they get super hot to begin with, and then you put them in a very, very hot situation. Your tubes start doing weird things. They can get microphonic, like Keith was saying, maybe the tubes were out. We'd come back the next day and maybe they were fine. Maybe the amps just cooled off. There's a lot of, even inside of the head of the amp, right? There's hand soldering in there. So depending on how it got, like how hot it got, like some of the soldering could have like unsoldered itself. So you have a capacitor flopping around in there. There's all sorts of weird stuff that can happen with tube amps. So I'm not surprised that he said that. Even if you have an amp tech on hand, there's only so much you can do if you're trying to get a song done. You know, like you could replace the tubes or change the speaker out, and before you're taking the entire thing apart and then looking at your like individual capacitors. Like I said, it could have been something as simple as like a leaky capacitor that just started acting up. But being able to play around that and write around it, that's a unique trait that bands today probably, I'm not going to say they don't have. I'm sure there are bands out there that just send it and get different sounds. Because that's probably what I would do, because getting amps fixed is also expensive. But once again, I wasn't in the Rolling Stones. They could afford to get that done. But it is cool they took that approach.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. So the next song, track number 13 at 2 minutes, 53 seconds. This is I Just Want to See His Face. And to say that this one sounds like it's not finished is a massive understatement. We have a fade in, we have something of a jam, and then we have a fade out. And again, this one doesn't really go anywhere, and it sounds like it's missing a few things. However, I don't think that's a big deal. Maybe it's because I've heard it most of my life. I can appreciate that it doesn't sound finished, but it also doesn't sound like, you know what this song is missing? I don't know if I could sit here and tell you everything I think should be added to this song. But again, Chris, I've heard it my whole life. What kind of vibe do you take from this one? Does it sound unfinished to you? What do you think?
I mean, it's got like a weird Southern gospel feel to it, almost like a Snake Charmer church vibe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's more of just a vibe than a song. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I don't know that it was written as like it needs a clear structure or it is a full song. It's more like how albums just have bridges or like interludes, specifically like hip hop albums. This could be like the skit on this album, I guess.
Oh, that's good. That's a good point.
So it kind of just has that feeling. And also this one's not recorded. This is one of the tracks that's recorded in LA. So it is not done in the same environment as everything else. It's a really cool track, though. It's one that you kind of hear something new every time you listen to it, especially when they're doing the backup vocals with Clyde King and Vanetta Fields and a bunch of other people. They're probably the two primary people might know. And then you get Mick just whispering like vocals over top of it. But the big organ track, I think, is what kind of gives it like this, I don't know, like this weird Southern ritual sound to it. It's the best way I could describe it. Something you could put in a movie with like Southern preacher with snakes, rattlesnakes and stuff.
I can actually really hear that in my head. It makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot been said about this in terms of the composition. And get this, don't know how any website on the planet would know this. But supposedly, now this is according to genius.com, where you can look up a whole bunch of lyrics, kids. Supposedly, this has never been played live. Now, in the thousands upon thousands of shows this band has played live, Chris, how in the world would anybody even know this? Like, I have a problem with that. But because of that, supposedly there's not a lot to be gained from what actually happened here. Jagger did say to Ultimate Classic Rock Magazine, he said, "I just want to see his face was the jam with Charlie and Mick. I think it was just a trio originally, though other people might have been added eventually. It was just a complete jam. I made the song up there and then over the riff that Charlie and Mick were playing. That's how I remember it anyway." Of course, you know, who knows? It's so interesting when I read stuff like this has never been done. I'm like, how in the world would you know that?
I mean, it's one of those things where like they probably had the same tour manager forever, right? That has all those track lists. Or I mean, it's also the Stones, once again, business, right? They probably know what sets they know what sets that they were running. A band as big as the Stones that tours as much as the Stones, they probably have like 3 rotating set lists that they do for tours.
Well, you just shot my whole thing all to pieces, so thanks for that.
But also, like, where do you fit this into a Rolling Stone set where you're covering 12 other albums plus this album, right? Like,
it sounds like a sound check kind of tune. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's also one that's clearly they had some studio time left in LA and did this track when they went in to do the other things on this album that they finished up in LA. Which is kind of the crazy thing about this. I think this is the only song that the entirety of it was recorded in Los Angeles from what I have in my notes. I could be wrong. Stones fans, let me know, but that's what I have in my notes here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I you know, we may have talked about this last week, but is there a version without all the LA stuff, or does that? Did we discuss whether or not that version actually exists? Because I'd be curious. Is that even a releasable album without all the LA stuff?
I would think so, but I don't, I'm sure it's out there because they've released this album in multiple different formats. There was one that I asked you about that had like 40 tracks on it, right? So
right. Yeah, this one could have its own box set, I think. Just this freaking album. That's crazy, man. And you could chalk that up, Chris, to either a lot of creativity or just a lot of drugs, and maybe both.
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised. Like even smaller albums can have that much. Like think of when Nirvana released that 4-disc box set just about Bleach, right? And all the weird B-side stuff that came off of that. Like it sounds more far-fetched than it is, but like with a band like the Stones, they're going in, they're recording this, and you have all of these tapes and tapes and tapes upon audio. There's probably different takes of the same song, with 4 or 5 different mixes. I'm assuming that's the majority of it. Now, I don't know how much of that. I always thought a lot of the LA stuff was backup vocals just based on who was on some of the tracks, but who knows? And also it could just be that they brought it in and mastered it, some of the stuff in LA, and then they cut like 1 or 2 tracks or some backup vocals. It's someone out there who is read books about the Stones. They can comment and let us know.
Yeah, that would work for sure. Let's see. Track number 14 is Let It Loose at 5 minutes, 18 seconds. And I believe that takes the record for the longest song on this entire album, at least the 18-track version we're talking about here today. Yes, it is. I freaking love this song. And it just hits all the right chords and notes for me, no pun intended. It's just working. It sounds very like theatrical, but not like in a overproduced kind of way. I really love this tune, man. What's your thoughts on this one?
This one also has layered vocals, specifically on the backup vocals. They do layering. This is kind of where I was getting that thing of like a confessional, right? Like this hangover trip to church, Johnny Cash on a Sunday morning sidewalk type vibe, especially coming off track 13 right before it. This is a very slow, soulful gospel ballad at its roots, and Mick Jagger is singing like he's on the edge of confessing something terrible, Right. We don't know what the terrible thing is. It's never told to us. We don't know if he killed a guy or cheated on his wife or what's going on, but we know something bad happened. Right.
Right.
And the backing singers, I think, really do help put it in that church territory, which kind of goes back to the track right before it. So if you listen to the two tracks in their intended listening order and think about that within mind, think about it in my weird mindset, right? Maybe the track that sounds like it goes nowhere makes a little more sense because it plays into this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this. It's got I think that mixed vocals are really good on it. And Nicky Hopkins' piano part is great. And then you get some a trumpet part, and I can't think of who played trumpet on it, but yeah, good stuff. Also from the track before, the same backups singers, Clyde King, Vanetta Fields. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I really love this one. Supposedly they've never done this one live either, which is interesting. And there's some lyrics here from Man of Constant Sorrow that they lifted and put into this track, which is equally interesting. Jagger said in a 2010 Uncut magazine interview that he says he thought that Keith wrote this song. He said it's a very weird, difficult song. I had a whole other set of lyrics to it, but they got lost by the wayside. I don't think that song has any semblance of meaning. It's just one of those rambling songs. I didn't really understand what it was about after the event. But he also, in the same article, Keith said, I would never take mixed recollection of anything seriously. That's good.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably should have looked up the lyrics in more detail before diving into the review of the song, but it's a good one.
Yeah, because like you said, it starts out, who's that woman on your arm, all dressed up to do you harm? And I'm hip to what she'll do. Give her just about a month or two. Ooh. Yeah, going somewhere.
Yeah, it's a cool track. It's a really cool track. Oh man, that's a tough one. It might be my favorite on this side, but
oh yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. I love it. There's so much going on, and depending on the band, depending on the situation, a lot can be going on, and you walk away going, "Yeah, I need a nap. That's too much." Like it, because of the way it's arranged wasn't good. I think everything is handled perfectly here. I don't think any one voice or any one instrument is dominating any one thing. I think it all just blends very nicely here together, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think the next one also captures that same energy, just in a different way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally. This one, track number 15, Chris is talking about, kids, is all down the line. 3 minutes, 50 seconds. This one to me sounds like a radio song. I could hear this being played on the radio. Kids, here's the newest Rolling Stone single. Again, like maybe it's because the way everything that happened with this album and the overdubs and, post-production and everything that maybe prevented a lot of singles from happening. But like, I don't know, man. How many times you turn on your oldies station on your FM dial and find this one? Probably not too often.
Yeah, that's unfortunate though.
Yeah,
they should
for sure.
Crack this out every once in a while. This one is one of the tightest songs that they have on the album as far as the band chemistry and being really, really in sync with each other.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is it's the horn section, and that horn section is very Muscle Shoals, like very specific sound. And Mick Taylor's slide guitar over top of that, which we're getting a lot more Mick Taylor on this side. I will say that. Some neat stuff. Yeah. I did have my notes that this one is recorded partly in France, partly in Sunset Sound Studios in Los Angeles. But the other thing about the band being locked in is like Keith's guitar work on this, his rhythm work is like perfectly in sync with everything that Charlie's doing. So it's like what you're looking for out of a Stone song, to me. At least those two, like the bass and guitar, what they're doing, just being so in sync is perfect on this song.
Oh,
I wrote
sure.
pure Stone's chemistry is what I wrote.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. This is awesome. This is written by Mick and Keith. It's a straight ahead electric rock song which opens side 4, what they called side 4 of this album. Acoustic version of this song was recorded in '69 during the early sessions of what would become Sticky Fingers. Recording for this one took place at the rented villa in France and at Sunset Sound Studios in Los Angeles. And they actually gave an LA radio station a demo of this one to play while they drove around and listened to it on the radio. Mick wanted this one to be the first single released, but instead it was released as the B-side to Happy in July of '72. So there you go.
I think
Great
that's
song.
okay. I think that's okay for it to be the B-side of Happy. Happy's a really good track. This is a great track.
It is. I love this song. It's close to being my favorite on this side, but I don't know that it's quite there yet. But it's close. But I like this a lot. 3.5 minutes, get in and get out. It's closer to what a pop song of the day you would kind of expect. It sure isn't 5 minutes 18 seconds, but I think everything works together really nice here for sure. So track 16, kids, as we're almost ready to wrap this sucker up. Stop Breaking Down at 4 minutes, 34 seconds. And earlier we mentioned the great Robert Johnson, the legendary Robert Johnson. I suspect Mr. Johnson, during his time on this mortal coil, had no clue that for 100 years people be talking about him. They'll be talking about him for 100 more. Maybe one day we'll do a 6M on him. That'd be a fun one. But he originally wrote Stop Breaking Down, so he's getting songwriting credit on this. Mick and Keith are both on it. Taylor's on it. Wyman's on it. And, of course, Watts. Again, of course, this is a cover. Johnson's original was released in '37. They've got Electric Slide on here and Raw Energy. This is where, Chris, this is the Stones' comfort zone. They're in their pocket on this tune. I love this cover of this song, man. It might be my favorite cover of this one. And some other great bands have covered this song, but this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great cover. It's I think the thing that makes it, once again, is Mick Taylor's slide guitar and Keith and Mick trading vocals. Like I said, Mick Taylor's putting in a lot of work these last 3 or 4 songs here on this side. Maybe they should add a little bit more of him on the first LP, but yeah, it's good. It's I'd rather listen to the original, but it like you said, a lot of bands have covered this. I think this is probably one of my favorite covers of the song for sure.
Yeah, I love this one. Again, man, that Johnson, he was something else. Wasn't original, absolute original. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you. They interpreted the song somewhat differently from the earlier versions. As we said, slide guitars on here, harmonica, and the only live performance of this song with Robert Cray on slide guitar and lead vocals is included in their Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge live concert DVD. Robert Cray, another legend, Chris, if you're familiar with him. Awesome, man. He's so good.
Yeah. Great guitar player. And I think that I've seen that cover before, but it's been years.
Yeah. Here's a funny tidbit to this. After the release of Exile on Main Street, Alan Klein sued the Stones for breach of settlement because Jagger and Richards had created their version of Stop Breaking Down and composed 4 of their songs on the album while they were under contract with his company, ABKCO. ABKCO acquired publishing rights to the songs, giving it a share of the royalties from Exile on Main Street, and was able to publish another album of previously released Stones songs, More Hot Rocks, Big Hits, and Phased Cookies. Man, that Alan Klein's got some buzz on him over the years, buddy. He's one of those weird music figures that always seem to be right there. One of those music guys in the suits, man, all the time.
Let me help you out of this tax situation you guys are in.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yeah.
That would be my guess of how that went down, considering how this album got started, right? Like, yeah, let me help you out. Just sign over your first child.
Yeah, he supposedly, well, not supposedly, according to history, kids, in '64 he had went to Brian Epstein with an offer for the Beatles to sign with RCA for $2 million. Epstein saying he was not interested. He was loyal to EMI. And after Epstein died in August of '67, the Beatles went on to form Apple Corps, as we know, in January of '68. And they hoped it would provide the means for correcting Epstein's unfortunate business decisions, which both limited their incomes and ensured high tax burdens. And the connection to Klein continued after that. And so I'll leave it up to you guys to go out there and read the rest of that history. But yeah, he always seemed to sort of be around. And for better or worse, Chris, a lot of times record executives are not remembered fondly, or they are, and maybe that's not fair either. Hard to know when you're not there, but he always seemed to be one of those guys to me, man, anyway. So
I think it depends on the executive and what label they worked for, right?
yes,
That's how it seems to go.
very, very true. Yeah. Let's see, kids. Track number 17, 4 minutes, 16 seconds. You talk about having a big sound and talking about, take them to church. That's what this one does. This is Shine a Light. The great Billy Preston is on this one for the LA recording sessions for overdubs. And he played piano and organs on this. I love this, Chris. This just has a timeless sound to it. It's got a very sad tone. And then when that gospel piano kicks in, it just gives you hope. And it's kind of hard to put into words, man, but I've always loved this track, man. What do you think?
Yeah, same. And I think I accidentally talked about this one a lot on the last show, so I'll keep some brevity here. Yeah, I think Billy Preston's organ absolutely makes the song and gives it the vibe that you're talking about, that hopeful vibe. It was written, as a tribute to Brian Jones and finished after his death. And Jim Gordon from Derek and the Dominoes plays drums on this track. So once again, we get a rotation of musicians. And this is one of the other tracks that was recorded in LA, not in France. So
yeah,
different vibe than the rest of the album. But it fits in well on this side. That's what I was saying with some of these other swampy gospel songs. This one, stands out. And this one's a little happier than some of the other ones we've talked about.
I agree with that. Even though the subject matter is pretty heavy, as Chris said, kids, this one is directly dealing with Jones' drug addiction, and it was originally titled "Get a Line on You." So yeah,
it's almost and happy is probably not the right word. It's more I don't know, like more like you could breathe a little more positivity coming out of it, I guess, and the way it sounds. But that's one of those things that's going to be up to the listener, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So a version of this one under the title "Can't Seem to Get a Line on You" was made by Leon Russell at Olympic Studios in October '69 with assistance from Jagger on lead, Charlie Watts on drums, Leon Russell on piano, and probably also Bill Wyman on bass with Keith on guitar. The recording was made during the recording sessions for the album Leon Russell, released in 1970, where Watts and Wyman contributed drums and bass to some of the tracks. But the song was shelved until 93 when it finally surfaced as a bonus track on the 24 karat gold re-release of DCC Compact Classics. I've never heard that version. Have you?
I don't think so, but I'm not surprised that Leon Russell showed up on this album because he shows up on every album from this time period. Like, seriously, like if you listen to any big band, it's like, and then this song is by Leon Russell. You're like, oh, okay.
I'm trying to find a witty comparison of who else we could.
Johnny Winter.
Johnny Winter, yeah.
There's just some songwriters that pop up a lot. Leon Russell was cranking out the tunes during this time period, and that's not a bad thing. Leon Russell, phenomenal musician. Rest in peace. Yes, I should have been counting down because I didn't have Leon Russell written in my notes here, but that makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, he I was going to say Snoop. Like Snoop showed up on everybody's track for years, I think. It seemed like he was always a guest on people's tracks. Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk it to death. I love this song. There's not a whole lot. I've got nothing negative to say. Great song. And, it's funny, man. We've been talking about this band as a business, but, Jones's death, I'm sure. I don't know how you get over something like that, especially when it's somebody that's close to you. And even though, pain can heal, but the memory's there forever. I would dare say these guys still occasionally think about Mick, if not more than occasionally. So, yeah, crazy, man, how things happen.
Yeah, and I mean, for this, I think this is a good exclamation mark on the album. And I love this because you can tell that Keith and Mick are singing into the same microphone at times on the song with their harmony.
Yeah.
It feels like you're seeing them live as you hear the song. This one was recorded late at the end of France, and then I think they did overdubs in LA from what I have in my notes here. But I mean, it feels like a band that went through a battle. Like I said, like a closing song at the end of the night, playing like a terrible bar. And the song has that feel and vibe, and it's why I love the song so much. It's great. It's phenomenal. I'm so torn on what my favorite song, because I know that's coming next.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I called Brian Mick, by the way, so my bad. I meant to say Brian, but yeah. So track 18, kids, it's the last one. Last one at the gate. 3 minutes, 48 seconds, Soul Survivor. It's my favorite one. And I love Shine a Light. And there's some other tunes I really, really enjoy off this, but Soul Survivor is my favorite, man. What you think?
Oh, Soul Survivor is your favorite. It's so good.
Man. It is.
I don't know. Let It Loose. Let It Loose is so good. I'm going to go with Let It Loose.
Let It Loose is a good song, yeah.
But Soul Survivor is probably second, and then Happy after that, if I had to rank them right now without listening to them again.
Man, a lot of this album, especially this one, for me, it's nighttime, New York City, rainy, a lot of black and white. It's just got that vibe to it. I don't know, back alleys, kind of cinematic. That's what this song does for me, man. Every time I hear it, it puts me in that headspace, like it's a Daredevil comic or something. Not necessarily the superhero stuff, but I don't know, Frank Miller sort of vibe, Sin City. That's where this, for whatever reason, that's where this song puts me every time I hear it. But I love it though.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Mine is still in this southern setting that I've created for myself, going from track. This playing at the Omni, after all of this other stuff has happened.
Well, that southern twang, that twinge is here through this whole album, man. All 18 songs, really, to some degree, have that vibe. I gotta say, man, I don't think just any old band could pull that off. Like, these guys are from freaking England, man, but they pulled it off quite nicely.
Yeah, they kind of did a great job of capturing the spirit of Delta blues and gospel. Early country and Americana for sure. Yeah. And I mean, some of it's the company you keep. Listen to think about the people on this album, some of the songs that they covered, the people that they brought in to do backup vocals, even getting a Leon Russell tune.
Yeah, right.
Kind of keying it up to be that band, and they do a great job of it. They always have, though, to be fair to the Stones.
They have, yeah, for sure. They great band. Well, look, man, I say going into this one that I'm just not a Stones guy. Doesn't mean I don't have mad respect for them. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate their contributions. Doesn't mean that, they don't have some of the most memorable songs of all time. And again, this to me, and they've done a lot of cool stuff since then and before this. But man, this album, Exile on Main Street, for me is always going to be my favorite thing the Stones ever did, man. For me, it's not close, which is tough because, again, they've done some very cool stuff through the years. But I just think this is, If I tell you this is them at their creative peak, I don't know that because I've never dove into every single album they've ever done like I have the Beatles. So I can't really speak to that 100%. But it sounds like anyway that maybe this could have been a mess, but thanks to as much great content as they got, thanks to the work done in LA, that all this was, and Chris, maybe salvage is the wrong word, maybe mixed, maybe put together, edited the right way, whatever word I'm looking for. It just feels like quite the achievement this album does.
Yeah, I mean, it's an album that tells a story about how it was recorded. Like you get a vibe from the band.
Yeah.
So in the same way as like you read an Ernest Hemingway novel and he paints you this picture of exactly what the landscape looks like, everything that's happening around him, the big, beautiful landscapes and all the detail around him. You get that in the songs and the way that they're recorded in this album. And you guys check out the Patton Report. I do this a lot where I go on these rants.
Yes, for sure.
The final line that I had for this and talking about the album is like you can almost hear the walls sweating, the amps buzzing,
Ooh.
and the band barely holding it all together. And that's the magic of Exile on Main Street.
Oh, man, well said.
That's what I would say about the album. And I think that's why it's, stood the test of time.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about an album that's about making the album, for some reason, Bo Diddley singing a song called Bo Diddley just jumps to mind. Do you know what I mean? Where it's very, here's a song about myself. Want to hear it? Here it go. So, yeah. I like that a lot. Well, there you go. There you have it, kids. Exile on Main Street, all 18 tracks. Chris, you just gave us your lowdown without me even prompting you. Is that what you got? You got anything more to add? You just want to leave it at that?
I mean, it's worth another listen. If you haven't listened to it for a while, throw it on. Listen to it twice in the past 5 days or so, prepping for this show.
Yeah.
And once before the first episode. So it's worth a listen. And also just an interesting time period. You talk for a second. I'm going to find the name of the documentary I referenced in episode 1. Someone asked me about that.
Well, we called it Last Word, Kids, which, if you're not familiar with that, we like to take. And what's funny is that once upon a time, a little trivia for you as we sign off today, folks. The last word used to be the last word. I would ask my co-host for the last word, then I would give my last word, and they would stop. I'd say, all right, good night, everybody, and that kind of thing. But what's happened through the years is that I will say, give me your last word, and then I'll say my piece, and the other guy will come back, or girl, and it's fine. Like, we just keep having a conversation, and sometimes when we're done recording, we just keep on talking. But that stuff never makes tape. So, Chris, I've got at this point, 5 years, 6 seasons worth of nothing but anthology material that I should have recorded, but it never saw the light of day. So
now you're just trying to get it all out at one time.
Yes.
Yes. So 1969 is the name of the documentary. It's worth a watch. It goes into some of this album and some of the things surrounding this album, but it also goes into things like the landing of the moon, the Manson girls, a lot of interesting stuff. Generation Woodstock and what comes after that. The youth movements in 1969, which leads into a lot of talk about this album in particular and some great photos. So, it talks about the generational gap between, Vietnam and the flower movement into what eventually becomes like glam rock and all of that jazz. So it's worth a watch. It's kind of a deep watch, but yeah, that was the documentary I was talking about on the first episode for whoever asked me that question. But yeah,
there you go. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Man, what a time. We don't have to, we're trying to wrap it up, but I want to talk. But man, what a time.
Maybe we'll do a show about that documentary.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's pretty good.
I was born in, all right, fine. I'll just be honest. I was born in 73. Okay. So I was after that. I'm after the Beatles break up, and I'm 1 year after this album is released. And, the 60s, I'm way past that. So but man, my music sensibilities, my tastes, my thoughts, my ideas, my attitudes, culture, fashion, all that stuff, man, I am way more. And, I try to be forward thinking with a lot of my stuff. And I feel like I really am. A lot of my stuff's evolved over the years, but man, a lot of those, you kind of feel like a person out of time, maybe to some degree. I kind of feel like that sometimes, man. You strike me as an old soul as well, but in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm an old soul, but also a millennial. So we're trapped between two times. We're trapped between the time before the internet and also during the internet and being the first to really accept the internet.
yeah,
So it's it's a whole weird thing in itself that I've tried to start writing a show about in detail of my experiences, and maybe that'll be a later Patton report kind of thing. But yeah, I was born in '88, but have always been called an old soul. So I
yeah,
won't hate on you for that.
yeah. Some people have that vibe, man, for sure. Yeah. Well, kids, unless this becomes a whole other show, we will call it a day. But thanks everybody for checking us out. We hope you appreciate the review here of Exile on Main Street. Remember, new episodes of the 6M podcast drop every Tuesday, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And if you're following Boink Studios on the YouTube and on boinkstudios.com, we appreciate your time and your attention. We got 6 brand new shows, 6 episodes per week coming out, kids, Monday through Saturday. So do me a favor, go check the links in the description. Subscribe, follow, like, share, all that good stuff to hear everything that we've got coming your way. And again, as we said, please stay tuned for the next episode of the 6M podcast. But for now, that is Exile on Main Street, Side 2. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.